Singh. I am founder and CTO of Harness. I have been in the DevOps platform engineering for a pretty long time. Before I founded the Harness, I was part of the Apple, the DevOps internal DevOps platform, and what is it? Sorry. Yeah. So throughout my career, there was one thing which I wanted to solve. There was one dream, and that was really making the production deployments stress-free. It was really a simple objective that I had all along. So, as you guys know, many of you have been part of this production deployment, and it's a really stressful thing. There is always sort of uncertainty. People worry, what is going to break, and something will come up, and what is the troubleshooting going to be, and whether we have to roll back, and all sort of things. And I always wonder why it cannot be solved as a part of the platform. Why can't the platform do the same thing what people are doing, looking into those 10 different dashboards, trying to see, this is the metrics data, whether it's looking normal, it's looking abnormal, there are the logs, these are the log files, there are certain exceptions showing up, those exceptions are not looking good. Why can't the platform take care of all this, right? And we ended up doing this, something like that at Harness. Apparently it's a hard problem to solve. There is a lot of machine learning. There is a lot of artificial intelligence that involves to make sure you watch, you monitor, you make sure everything is right between the different versions. So that's what we do. That was the genesis of the Harness. When I was ready to go for the Harness, I joined hands with Jyoti Bansal. Jyoti Bansal is the founder of the App Dynamics. I think many of you probably already heard earlier morning in his keynotes. So we will, the Harness, we provide continuous delivery as a service. And what this really means is, deployment automation, the rollback, the continuous verification, the security, pretty much everything that customer could leverage as a service. That's pretty much.
Great. Andres?
Hi, everyone. I'm Anders Wallgren, Chief Technology Officer at Electric Cloud. We do DevOps, release automation, orchestration, adaptive release automation, orchestration, those types of things. I've been at the company for about 14 years, so this has kind of been a major chunk of my professional career, kind of watching, Agile be very successful to the point where it stressed the crap out of ops, right? Wait, we can deliver features every 2 weeks, but we have to wait 90 days to deploy. What's wrong with that picture? So we've been working with our Electric Flow product for many years now, and our customers solving some of these problems and getting all of the manual steps out of these processes and getting it to the point where it is, repeatable, reliable, automatable, all of those things. And then of course all the analytics and metrics and monitoring and environment management and those kinds of things that you want to do around that. So we're having a lot of fun doing that stuff.
Thanks, Anders.
Hey everyone, this is Hariram. Are you able to hear me? Okay. So I'm Hariram, co-founder and CEO of Kyber. Before I get going about Kyber, I have two goals for this panel. One is I want to make sure you guys don't doze off. Two, I want to make sure that it's as interactive as you can be. So can you do me one favor? Can all of you raise your two hands? Okay. Thanks so much. Now let's use those two hands. I want to, ask you to applaud a few people. One is, let's start with the guys who have organized this TiE Inflect event. They've done a great job. Let's do that. Now I want to thank Anand. He has taken too much. He's doing multiple tracks, and Sujoy. I want to thank the two of them.
Yay.
Thank you.
Guys, you have to be more louder than that, okay?
Come on.
And
all right.
I like that. And look at the two panelists, co-panelists that I have, right? Amazing guys. Anders, this guy is almost in every expert panel out there. I can almost give him a PhD on being a panel expert.
I
right?
apologize.
And Rishi, he's not doing DevOps anymore. He's doing AI on DevOps, right? So let's give some applause for both of them.
All right. So
and for Hariram.
All right.
I'm really, I am.
There's
excited.
a lot of love in the room right now.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be part of this panel, right? And there's one group of people that I forgot to thank. It's you guys. Let's give a big round of applause to you guys, because on on a 4 p.m. for you guys to show up here. If you didn't show up, this wouldn't be a panel. This will be like, a table discussion. So, thanks so much for that. Kyber is an app orchestration and all ops orchestration platform. The goal is for Kyber to help entrepreneurs and innovators in both product time to market, scaling their product, and securing their products. What do I mean by that? If you look at a product life cycle, if I were to simplify that, you write code to build new features, then you build, you deploy, you secure, you scale, you operate, you monitor, right? If you use Kyber, you do the first step of writing code to build new features. Everything else you can do through Kyber's UI. That's what Kyber is for. And what statistics shows that only 30% of a product team bandwidth is today used for building new features. 70% is used in managing, maintaining, operating their products. With Kyber, our goal is to take them to 80% in terms of building new features, taking their product to market, and 20% on operating them. That's essentially what Kyber is set out to do. And it applies to not just product owners and ISVs, even enterprises, in terms of IT transformations that they want to do. It could be digital transformation, it could be cloud adoption, it could be initiatives related to compliance or security or operational excellence. So those initiatives are where Kyber is also used today by Fortune 500 companies. So that's a quick summary of what we do at Kyber.
Very good. So before we kind of get started with the rest of the panel, I just want to kind of set the ground straight, set that basic definition. What are we talking about? We're talking about, the first panel was around dev, second was around ops. Over here, we are trying to pull it together, right? So that it's not that developers developed, threw it over the wall, went to the ops, and the idea is to orchestrate, pull them together so that ultimately the software is delivered fast at a higher quality. So why don't I start with you? Why don't you just tell us about this topic, release orchestration, as well as kind of why we need to look all these different phases of life cycle together and the interaction and collaboration that needs to happen there.
Yeah, there's really been a sea change in the last 10, 15 years or so in terms of, the commoditization of compute, right? I think it was very interesting the panel previously that Pratap was moderating, discussing the difference between, Amazon and Google and so on and so forth, which I think is a great discussion to have. But honestly, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it's going to be a little bit like discussing which brand of gasoline you prefer. It's a commodity, right? And it's not something that is necessarily something you need to fight over. You pick the one that's best for you for whatever, the kind of detergents you want to have in your gasoline or the cutest mascot or whatever the case may be. The key thing that's happened is the adoption cycles for technology have become ridiculously faster than they have been in the past, right? The number of years that it took for the telephone, the landline, to penetrate, into 90% of the market space was measured in decades. Right? The penetration of mobile phones, much faster. The penetration of tablets and those kinds of things, way faster. So product cycles and innovation cycles, financing cycles, all of those things have drastically, gotten faster. And Agile was very successful, right? Agile has been incredibly successful at making development teams more productive. And I actually have a slide in one of my decks where I have a little video from I Love Lucy, if you ever saw the old black and white show. But they're working on the assembly line in a candy factory. And the candies start coming faster than they can actually package them. So they have to start eating them and putting them in their pockets and all of this kind of stuff. And that's a little bit like what quality and ops and release teams felt like once Agile development teams kind of got going and got a little bit more velocity in their thing. So what we're trying to do with DevOps and release automation, Agile, Kanban, Lean, whatever you want to call it, right, is acknowledge the fact that there's a manufacturing aspect to getting software out the door, right? There's a quality aspect. Quality is a measurement problem. So you want to measure as frequently and as often as you can, and you want to have as few people touching it along the way. Because honestly, if you look at the numbers, where people touch things, that's where things go wrong, right? So humans, we kind of suck at typing the right command into the right external window at 3 in the morning when the boss is leaning over your shoulder saying, that's another $100,000 we just lost, right? So that all of this stuff needs to be automated, if for no other reason than to just keep people from having to be up in the middle of the night to do it. So,
Rishi?
Yeah, I think.
And I want to remind you that you want it to be a little bit controversial here, so go ahead.
I would love to.
Come on, guys,
Actually,
let's make it spicy.
Yeah, I think that's great for the audience. So, I have, exactly opposite of, what this all, discussion about, the release orchestration. I mean, if you look at that, the modern applications, when applications are divided into so many small microservices, these services are delivered every day, maybe multiple times in the day. What the heck are you going to do with the release management and release orchestration? Who is going to drive it? So it's really all about the automation. Everything has to be automated. And that's how it's going to be. The release, if you do a fast forward, 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, release really means like some kind of product announcement. iPhone is going to be released in September, something like that. That's how I see the release orchestration moving. Now, there is no doubt that there are the values, there are the points taken in the release orchestration, and all of them needs to be incorporated, included in the continuous delivery world, the way we deliver the software now. So pretty much, something like whether it's the infrastructure provisioning or there's a configuration management or it's a network configuration, pretty much everything has become a code, a form of a code, that's getting version control, that's getting into the source code repository, and it has all become as a part of the pipeline. It's part of the definition of the continuous delivery pipeline, and that's how DevOps is moving. That's how the applications are coming up, and that's my take for the release orchestration.
Well, Andros is nodding his head, he's agreeing, so it was not even controversial. What's going on here?
yeah, you got to try harder than that.
Well, I'll make it controversial.
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
So I'll stick to my goals. Guys, I want to make it interactive, and I want to make sure you guys are wide awake, right? So, I'll tell you my thoughts on this topic, but I just have a quick request to you. At least 2 of you, can you come over to the microphone and tell me, one day-to-day activity that you do that you would love to be automated by something? 2 of you, please. Right? So
I'll
tell
have to
you.
be work-related?
No, not work. No, forget work. Right? 2 day-to-day life activities that you would love to be automated. I mean, one activity from 2 people. Right? So I'll tell you my take. See, the way I look at it is, step outside of code, product, IT and all that, right? We are in a world where we are looking at self-driving cars, autonomous cars. We live in a world where we are looking to do heart surgeries using robots, right? The thought process is, how do we take...
Robots guided by human hands, but yes.
Yeah. Okay, right? Syntactically, semantically, Anders will clear, correct me. So we are basically heading to a world where we want to do more high-value tasks as humans and leave as much of the automatable tasks to computers and software, right? That's the thought process, and it's being accelerated to a large extent by the fact that a lot of software getting released today is API driven, is more interoperable, and a lot of the cloud providers today, be it AWS, Amazon, Google, Oracle, they are also making sure they are as much software driven, API driven as possible. So that's kind of helping us to fast track that process, but the mindset is simple. How can you do more high value tasks, and how can you automate as much of the rest of the tasks as possible? Now, I don't see anyone near the microphone. I'm not stopping until, I hear couple of ideas on, I have one idea I'm going to state, but I want to hear from you guys, which, activity, yeah, here you go.
Yeah, I think it's not.
I don't think it's on.
Can I try? Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
So I've got 2 kids, 10 and 11 years old. Me and my friends used to talk about this as a big idea. So as parents, we spend quite a bit of time taking our kids to activities. Weekends are gone. Can we automate all of that so I can relax at home?
Wow, like that.
What
What else? So I met someone at the conference yesterday. I asked him, hey, what do you think of all this? He said, man, I would love to have a robot that can clean vegetables for me, because I bought the food processor, I got the roti making machine, I still have a gap in cleaning my vegetables, right? My own favorite is, if there can be a robot or whatever that can do pain-free shaving for me every day morning, I would take that, But that's essentially my take on orchestration, guys.
Very, very, very good. So given that we have 9 more minutes left, let's just come back to a couple of things that a good takeaway for the audience. Let's just focus on those. So we talked about, orchestration is important, right? But it's complex, right? I mean, trying
Absolutely.
to do everything together it gets complex, right?
It already is complex,
Yeah.
whether it's manual or not.
Right,
You sort of have to
Rishi,
admit that.
do you have a take on that?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do we need?
I think, is it working? No? I hope this one is working.
Sounds better.
Yeah, so I think release orchestration, it is complex, that is true. But it has to be engineered. Anything that is complex, it doesn't mean that it's not solvable, and that's what has happened. So if you look at the orchestration that was happening before, people were having the spreadsheet, going through the checklist, what needs to be done. 200 instances needs to be provisioned for the stress testing. So that is fine, those complexities are okay, but it needs to be documented, it needs to be scripted, or needs to be programmed. It has to go through the same engineering mindset, same process, just like you build a new feature or build a new functionality. And that's how you solve the release orchestration problem. And I guess this is already happening. If you look at some of the very modern applications, I think there are the templates for the infrastructure provisioning. For the networking, it used to be such a big deal. You open a ticket and you wait for another 3 months, and then you'll get the work done.
You say used to. That's still, by and large, how most people do it, unfortunately.
Well, I think it's changing, for sure. I think the last time, so we founded Harness probably a couple of years ago, and we went through one round of touch base, like many companies, getting their ideas. Is it making even sense? Whatever we are doing, are we wasting time, or it's something that resonates with them? At that point of time, I distinctly remember there were not many companies. They were doing the Dockerization. They did not have the Kubernetes and all this concept. But today, when we are talking to all the customers, majority of our customers that we are engaging with, they are all Dockerized. They are using this Kubernetes and all this environment. So yes, I think there are many companies, their change management and network configuration and those things may still be in the manual, but I think most of them are going to be, pretty soon it's going to be in minority, and probably they will soon move into the cloud or some kind of on-premise cloud soon. So to answer your question, release orchestration, I think it's a complex, but it's doable, and it's already happening. It's already being engineered.
Cool. So let's talk about.
So I have some take on that.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
See, the mistake that most organizations do when they begin their journey on automation or orchestration is, okay, let's start writing some scripts. We'll write some shell scripts, some Python scripts, and Perl scripts and whatnot, and that's where the challenge starts. We work with many companies where their scripting repository is larger than their actual code repository, right? That's where the problem starts. So the right approach there is identify what are your orchestration needs and what are the most meaningful things you can do to start with that helps your business as well. You need to bring your business along and understand, for every step of my orchestration, I'm going to enable these business benefits, at the same time doing it with the long term in mind, not going and writing another 10 scripts. Our goal has been, we want to take organizations to a zero script IT environment, and I think that's how we should think of this. And we will definitely get there and get there right.
Yeah, and just to add on to the Hari's point is, it's been because historically there was not good enough tools to do it. If you look at 5 years, 10 years, before, there was not good infrastructure providers. The provisioning was such a big deal, and people used to write some kind of script to do those workarounds, right? So it has just happened.
Yeah.
It has accumulated over the period because people didn't have those tools. Now, when there are the tools available, I don't think anyone is interested in writing those scripts and bringing such a huge repository.
Very good. So let me kind of go a little bit kind of an extension of DevOps. We have talked about DevOps so far, but there have been many different extensions. Actually, I heard Mudu talk about AI Ops already, right? So DevOps, when I was at AppDynamics, we called it Biz DevOps. People are calling now SecOps, all different kind of ops, dev combination, Biz Dev SecOps, it just, you can go on and go on and go on. So I just wanted to kind of want to get your opinion on those, is that do we need to extend, or why are we trying to extend and broaden, or the DevOps, the way we started it, does it encompass everything or not? So
it sort of, I guess that depends on who you ask, I think to some extent. Pure Agilists would point you to the Agile Manifesto, which talks about delivering software to the customer.
Yeah.
Right. So you can certainly get into an argument there about whether is DevOps a subset, a superset? Does it come after? Does it come before? All of those kinds of things. And as I like to say, if you get 10 people in a room talking about this, you'll get at least 11 opinions because somebody will change their mind. But I think the important thing is to focus on outcomes, right? What you want to focus on is positive outcomes for your customers, right? Positive outcomes for your employees. You want to be able to run your business in such a way that doesn't drive everybody nuts every time you have an outage or every time you try to do a release, right? And something that's more data driven and metric and outcome driven than just sort of this is the way we've always done it, right? And one of the things that we fight there is the siloing that we have in most large organizations. The management philosophies of the past were very much around let's optimize for these functions that we have. And we'll make everybody stand in line outside the security office or outside the quality office or outside the engineering office or outside the ops office, right? And wait for their turn to get the blessing to proceed. And what most high functioning software organizations, IT organizations do today is very different. They're breaking down those silos. Those silos are part of the problem. Those silos are part of the problem in terms of why we don't ship on time, why we ship with crappy quality, why we ship with crappy security, And I think the linear thinking that we've had for so many years that we're trying to break down with Agile, with DevOps, with Lean, with Kanban, with, it's not the quality of the daily work, it's the improvement in the quality of the daily work that matters. All of those kinds of manufacturing things that came along. We in the software industry still have a ways to go in getting as good as the car industry is at doing this stuff, or as manufacturing industries are in general, like cranking out, time and again, the same article over and over and over. Different industries, different problems, but a lot of things in common. And there's a lot of software companies that, they do the equivalent of installing the radio in the car and then parking the car for 3 weeks in the corner of the factory before they turn the radio on to see if it works. We do that with software all the time. Right. So think about that.
I think two points that Anders touched upon, very important, right? One is what your business goals, what do your customers want? Second is continuous improvement, right? Those are the things you need to worry about, not what is the definition of DevOps, what's the definition of SecOps, what is the definition of CloudOps. Don't get caught up in those definitions, right? Because every company is different, every product team is different, and every business has its own unique goals. So you need to understand, for my business, if I need a combination of certain security tools to be automated, certain compliance frameworks to be integrated, certain application and data components to be integrated, that's what you do. Whatever be its definition, XYZ ops, doesn't matter. So make sure you don't lose that thought process of what am I trying to achieve and how do I get there and how do I sustain and continuously improve. As long as you have that clearly laid out and continuously work towards that, you'll get there.
Great.
I really find it really crazy. This DevOps that started, it was great. Break the silos between the dev and the ops. Get them, together, have them collaborate, and increase the productivity, increase the delivery velocity, and everything. That's great. But it has become such a buzzword, SecOps and BizDevOps and BizDevSecOps, and I don't know how many ops that's going on. I'm wondering if there is something called political party ops. Is there something called husband and wife ops?
Yeah.
really the intent is, if the ops is synonymous with the collaboration, then yes, everyone needs to collaborate. And it's really the credit to the original, the DevOps practitioners who made, who propagated this whole philosophy of, the breaking those barriers and bringing them together, and, everyone adopted that philosophy. So if the collaboration, that is great, but I really find it crazy with all these different ops technologies.
But still, there has been a lot of talk. I thought when I was here talking about, okay, hey, I have my DevOps talk. No, you guys should have done biz DevOps talk. So I was like, okay. Okay, very quickly, we are over time now. I would, let's do 30 seconds or like pretty close to that. Where is it heading? We all talked about different things. Where is it heading? 2 years later, if we sit here in this panel, what would you see that happen? So why don't we start with Hari?
Okay. I mean, I don't know 2 years, 3 years, but this is the way I look at it, right? End of the day, everything is focused on continuous innovation, and end of the day, what your customers want, what is a better experience, right? I can't, I can think of a world where a customer calls a chatbot or interacts with a chatbot or an equivalent and says, hey, I need these features. And then, or he says, you know what, I have these problems with your features. And then the chatbot says, can you refresh your screen? I think you should have them now, right? I think that's where we are headed. It's more how we get there.
Great.
Yeah, I've actually had that experience at a customer site where after 10 minutes on the phone with a customer, they said, try it now. And they had in 10 minutes fixed the problem, deployed it. And the customer saw the fix, which was great. I think architecture is the thing a lot of us ought to worry about. The architecture of applications have a massive impact on how easy they are to modify and deploy and maintain and all of those kinds of things. So loosely coupled architectures, microservices, containers around those are very popular. I think, but microservice, Kubernetes is not the end of history, right? Any more than the fall of the Berlin Wall was the end of history. Serverless, Lambda, functions as a service, breaking these things down further and further, I think is what's going to happen. And I think that yields more complexity, not less, even though it's better in the end, I think, for a lot of technical reasons. But I think that's kind of the next thing. And some organizations will probably even just skip over containers and microservices, or at least skip over containers and go to serverless the same way that a lot of countries skipped copper landlines and went straight to cell phones, right? Skip that old infrastructure, we don't need it anymore. So there's some of that happening as well.
Great, Rishi.
Yeah. I think, the DevOps has been very, very successful. I think business has really realized the potential. And so, the time to market has become shorter, but business will continue to push. And I think all this technology, whether it's the containers, the microservices world, it will continue to expand there. And I think the AI and the machine learning has a lot of role to play.
Definitely.
So when you're talking about the microservices architecture, when you're breaking down and deploying every day or multiple times in a day, breaking this one big monolithic application into 10 different services, and there are dependencies, and there are so many things. There is so much complexity involved. And I guess that's where the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, that's going to play a major role. I think it will become a norm, whether it's a big organization, small. There has to be pretty shorter time for the delivery.
That's great, and that's in line with the theme that we had for the event. It's imagination to the power of AI, and we wanted to have the AI team across, and that's what we see. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was great to have you here.
Right. Thank you.